Interesting.
I love your browser history.
I like that you're not hiding anything from me.
By the way, nice IP address. I like your neighborhood.
You are so special. This ad is just for you.
I learned so many things from you.
You are so generous.
With your personal data.
Switch on privacy, switch off trackers and viruses. Go to nordvpn.com. NordVPN. Safely be you.
Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Brighton 1, Arsenal 1, and it's certainly shaping up to be an interesting rivalry that's developing between these two clubs. Some interesting results, some big refereeing decisions. We're going to be delving into Arsenal's performance. Were they good enough? Why was Nwaneri taken off? Why were they so slow and lethargic at points today? Of course, Arsenal fans fuming about the penalty that they conceded. Were they robbed is the question being posed across social media right now. We're going to delve into that, take your views, get your opinions on all of that, plus bring you the panel later in the show. Do me a big favor and hit the like button if you haven't done so already. So if you haven't done that, please get it done. Give that a little smash for us. That would be amazing if you could. Also, if you would, I'm just looking for, yes, I'm just making sure I've sent the link out to all the right people. Sometimes I don't send the link and then I sit here going, why haven't nobody arrived for the panel? And then I realize it's because they haven't had the they haven't had the link sent to them. So I'm just making sure that they've all had that sent through. Yes, they have. They've all had it. So that is great news. Loads to delve into. Super chat straight away here that says, Terry, I'm so tired of the extra pass in the box from Arsenal. How much D do I have to S to get someone to shoot the goddamn ball? More points dropped to middle of the table. That might be it. And I'll be honest with you, Arsenal, look, they deserve to lead in the first half. Absolutely, they deserve to be leading in the first half. But I felt the second half display, first and foremost, I thought that I know it was booked, but I thought taking off Nwaneri was a poor decision. There was a few times in the game where he was caught on the ball in the first half. It wasn't the only one, but he felt like the only real threat in the attack in that first half for Arsenal. So taking him off, I thought, was a mistake. I felt that there was a lack of energy today from Arsenal. And yet you're 1-0 up, so you don't necessarily need to go and score that second goal. But there was a lack of energy. There was a lack of clinical edge at times. And just before the penalty that was conceded, a really good free kick into the box, which I think Marino should be scoring. He should be putting that into the back of the net, literally within 30 seconds of that taking place. Brighton go down the other end and concede Arsenal go and concede the penalty, which Brighton put away. And then after that point, Arsenal just didn't really look like winning the game or scoring. And I think Arsenal fans will get onto the penalty in a moment and talk about it. But I don't think we can sit here and solely deflect away from the Arsenal performance. It wasn't up to the standard today. I think Mikel Arteta made a number of mistakes. Nwaneri coming off, I felt that he should have stayed on. Thomas Partey at right back, I think it takes away from Arsenal's attack. It was called out the other day by Gooners in the build-up to this game. And playing Thomas Partey there, I just think it defensively not too much of an issue by and large. It's in the attack. I know that Timber was suspended, but you've seen a difference where you've got Timber. A few Gooners suggested midweek that actually they would have played Calafiori in that position and put Lewis Skelly on the other side. I thought they missed Skelly as well today. I think he's been really good in a number of games recently. Partey's also been excellent in the midfield this season, and you remove that dynamic. It was three. Listen, Declan Rice has got physicality, and so does Moreno, but they don't really have pace. They don't really have that ability to turn on a sixpence and create. And that was missing in the midfield today. It was very clunky in that regard. I just think that Arteta made some really big mistakes in terms of the starting lineup. And as much as Arsenal fans will look at the penalty, and we will, because I think there is a significant thing to talk about here, whether you think it is one or not. But Arsenal's performance could have been and should have been a lot better than they delivered today. Massive points dropped. Huge advantage with Liverpool playing Man United at home tomorrow. We're poor. We're terrible. I would not hold your breath for a singular second thinking that you were going to get anything, Man United are going to get anything out of that game, and therefore you were going to get something from it. So yeah, look, it's a sticky one for me, but the Arsenal performance simply wasn't good enough today. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. So I think that's something that's got to be focused on. A lot of people obviously asking about the penalty. Look, as far as I'm aware, I saw a big stat company put it out. Arsenal were the first team in Premier League history to concede a goal from an accidental clash of heads. And I say that because, and I'll start by saying this, for years, I've never understood why a clash of heads doesn't lead to bigger punishments than they receive. Example being, when Ryan Mason had his skull fractured, he gets to the ball first, and then Cahill hits him. Not even a free kick given, not a yellow card given. It was seen as a coming together, a clash of heads. Medics came on, game drop ball. I remember when David Luiz, when he was the Arsenal centre-back, fractured the skull of Raul Jimenez. Again, if you're late in a slide tackle and you hit a man's leg and you break it, you fracture it, you get a red card, right? Or at least the yellow. So I've never understood why headers, when a player or two players challenge for the ball with their heads, if one misses the other one, they clash. I've never understood why that's not treated like other tackles. That's the element about this penalty that confused me. You heard the commentators here in the UK say it. I'm not sure where around the world you watched the game. A penalty for that? Really? Really? Because it's one of those things where I understand why people would call it a foul. Don't get me wrong. I do. But throughout my lifetime, these are often seen as comings together and there's a drop ball given. So I understand why Arsenal fans would feel hard done by in relation to that decision in isolation. And you'll now start to notice them more. You'll look for them more. Very rarely a foul's given. What you get foul for is, say two players jump up for the ball, like earlier on in this game, Declan Rice wins it and the other player crashes through him. You get fouls for that. But yet when it's a head clash for the same thing, it's always a drop ball. And this is one of the things I would now like to see from Sky Sports, TNT Sports, whoever it may be, speaking to the referees, speaking to Howard Webb and saying, can you give us the distinction? Why was this clash of heads different from others? And a lot of people are saying it wasn't accidental, Terry. He meant it. Well, then it's a headbutt, and then why wasn't he sent off for serious foul play? So let's not go down those lines. It's stupid. I understand why Arsenal fans are going to be frustrated with this because of the amount of times head clashes happen and no foul is given. Why was this? Especially those kind of fouls that you sometimes see in the middle of the pitch, but never in a box. So I think it's important. You saw the Anthony Gordon and Kulusevski one earlier today. It wasn't a head, but a shoulder, very similar. Broke Anthony Gordon's nose. Nothing was given. So I can understand why Arsenal fans feel aggrieved with it. Did he win the ball? Look, we'll play the video for you here, actually, in slow-mo. Does he get a part of the ball? You can decide if you want. The ball's touched there by Saliba, then it goes up in the air. So you can watch it back again. Both go with their heads. Does he get a part of the ball? Some are saying yes, some are saying no. Does that constitute winning it when it touches it? It looks like it goes up after it goes over Saliba's head, and then there is a head clash. But as I say, many a times in football, I've seen this in the box. I've seen this in the middle of the park. I've seen a clash of heads. What's really interesting, and maybe this is gamesmanship here, maybe Saliba should go down holding his head as well. And I know none of us, we don't like to see anyone fake an injury, but maybe if he's holding his head, they see it as a clash of heads and they're coming together. Maybe because Saliba's okay and he carries on, they see it differently. But from my point of view and perspective, I'm not going to change my stance. I've always felt they should be fouls. But when did it start becoming one? I'd love to know. I'd love to understand that from the PGMOL. So I know why Arsenal fans are going to feel aggrieved with that, and I understand it. No different to a couple of seasons ago when we saw Cucurella have his hair almost pulled out of his head against Tottenham. And I sat there with many a Chelsea fan saying, since when has that never been a foul? How is that not given when you have video referees to watch it and look at it? I don't know. But look, I think that two things can be right at the same time here. I think Arsenal fans should be asking questions about that penalty. More importantly, I think they should be focusing upon their performance. They should be calling that out 110%. They have to. You can't be ignoring that, in my humble opinion. But as ever, I want to hear from you. I want your thoughts and I want your opinions on everything that went on in that game. We're going to go to some super chats. Then we're going to go to the panel, people. And by the way, shout out to our title sponsor, NordVPN. As I tell you all before, and I'll say it again, you shouldn't be using the internet without full and proper protection. So make sure that when you're surfing it, it's safe, that all your personal data is protected, and that it's private and nobody knows what you're doing on the internet. And I know that, listen, some will say, oh, I know none of you watching are getting up into anything illegal, but it's still nice to have your privacy there. Plus, on top of that, like I did today, you can enjoy the 3 p.m. games very simply with Setanta Sport by changing your geolocation. It's $3.99 a month. It's so cheap. All the 3 p.m. games, all the games that are on Sundays because of European football, they don't show on UK TV, is available here. Plus, a much cheaper option for watching not just football, but multiple other sports available as well for $3.99. And it's not against the law. You're not going to end up in prison like some guy in the UK for a fire stick for 2 years. 2 years in prison. Some companies like Netflix don't. It's against their terms and conditions to go use a VPN. But you're not going to prison for breaking the company's term and condition. So stop illegal streaming and do it this way around. Let's jump into these super chats here. Not just big points dropped. That's the league done for done Arsenal fail. Listen, I agree. I don't think Arsenal can win the league from here. I agree. I don't see it being possible. 6-point gap. Probably going to go to 9 tomorrow with a game in hand. I know you've got to win the game in hand, but I can't see anyone winning it but Liverpool now. And if I hear Hussam, that fraud, say they're still third favourites, I'm banning him for a month on the football. In fairness, I'm just not going to pay him anymore. He's going to lose his rights and privileges, and I'm not going to pay him. Done. Can't deal with the lies. Partey right back, Ethan off. Arteta lost that game. I think that's fair. I think that's really, really fair what you're saying there, my friend, because there was nothing on that right-hand side at all. Really poor decision from Mikel Arteta. Hey, Terry, please tell Egal Mo Salah says Merry Christmas. Also, big up to the terrace. Thank you very much, Joseph. I really, Joseph. I really appreciate that. I don't know where Gunner Sulz is. He's got the link, though. He hasn't showed up yet. I don't know where Gunner Sulz is. I hope he's coming tonight. We need to talk about how slow we take set pieces and throw-ins. Partey, given even got caught in the final whistle, whilst trying to take a throw-in. I don't necessarily think it's a problem. I think what you're trying to do is create some anxiety for your opponents, and I get it. But when the result ends up being like today, I suppose every time you've wasted time, you think, well, we could have scored a goal. So I understand it from this perspective. I get why it's being done, but I also see your point of view. Chelsea collapse again. Big Ange disaster class, but now it's Arsenal got robbed. But that isn't the first part. Hang on a minute. Say, Blaze, I love you, bro. You're a regular super chatter. You're a mod. But you just lied. The first part of the title is big points dropped. The second part is asking a question whether Arsenal are robbed, because some Arsenal fans are stating it. So you are being very disingenuous, because the first part is about big points being dropped. So I've got Blaze, I love you. You super chat every show, but I'm going to treat you as not like you're treating me now. I'm going to treat you more honestly. Why would you lie like that? Come on now, bro. You're better than that. The most wasteful match by Arsenal this season. Partey and Ethan particularly. Wasted breaks, chances not taken. Jesus missing a one-on-one with the keeper. Poor. Terry, people saying we was robbed, but don't want to talk about Georginio deserving a red. I must have missed that. What did Georginio do to deserve a red? The guy's gonna have to tell me. You have to tell me. I swear to you, on my children's life, I wouldn't lie. I don't know what you're referring to. Someone send me a link, and I'll see it, and I'll give an opinion on it. But I sometimes miss things in games because I'm human. But I don't remember him. I don't remember I don't remember a moment in the game where where VAR got involved or the commentators got involved and kind of drew my attention back to it. Normally, sometimes I'm like on my computer setting up a thumbnail, and there'll be a bad tackle or there'll be a red card. VAR. They talk about it, so you look. I didn't remember seeing that in the game, bro. The difference between Liverpool and Arsenal is hilarious. Truth is tell, Arsenal were trash, just like Brentford, but there wasn't any jammy goals today. Yes, I'm shameless, very happy Arsenal not winning the Prem again. I hear you on that. And listen, the first thing I spoke about on the show was that. But I'm not going to ignore what you guys are talking about as well, as in the collective. Saliba had 0 complaints. What are we doing? Well, I'm just giving you the view of how I see it. And what did I say? I've always felt these late headers should be fouls. What I'm confused about is most of the time when 2 players go for a header, doesn't matter which one's late, invariably it's seen as a clash of heads, accidental, and a drop ball situation happens, even when people have had their skulls fractured. So I think it's fair for football fans to ask Howard Webb, can you give us the distinctions in between those fouls of head fractures and this moment being a penalty? And are we going to see consistency around that? That's where I think you need to be fair. I think as an audience, is those questions being asked are absolutely right. There's been a number of decisions that I've agreed with VAR giving. For instance, today, Newcastle's goal should stand because Joe Linton isn't committing a handball that would concede a penalty or concede a free kick because it's accidental. Therefore, the goal should stand. But we've seen many handballs like that in the build-up to goals. See the goal get disallowed. So I'm asking, why is the difference there today? I agree with the decision, but I'm asking about the consistency and why other things didn't count. So there is, and I am going to sound pompous when I say this because I don't know how not to at this particular moment, but that's kind of why we exist, not me specifically, but to ask these questions. And I just wish we had the ability to ask them like the mainstream media do. I'm absolutely fuming, Tell. Our performance wasn't amazing, but this was all based on PGMOL using us as guinea pigs for the new rules that won't be enforced later. Robbed again. Congrats to Liverpool. See, listen, I think you've got to focus on your performance. I don't think you can let Arteta off the hook. I don't think you can let a lot of players on the pitch today off the hook. The element of what you've said that I understand is how many people have been booked in the last 3 months for delaying a restart. They've stopped it, which we all said back in August they would. So I understand those frustrations. I remember a few years ago, and they were giving all those weird handballs, even when people weren't even looking what they were doing, and loads of people conceded penalties. The last guy that did was Eric Dyer for Tottenham against Newcastle, ironically, at that game as well today. And then after that, didn't happen again. Lee Judges said today about Newcastle's goal. Now, how often would a Gonner support a Spurs fan? He said, I've seen hundreds of goals disallowed like Newcastle's. Why suddenly allow that one? I always feel it should happen at the end. They should keep a protocol for the whole season to keep the integrity. However, what you can't do is ignore Arsenal's performance today, my friend. I don't think you should be doing that. I don't think it's helpful. As a Liverpool fan, I think it's harsh to give those penalties because the defender can't see the attacker's head whilst they're heading the ball. Which is why they're nearly always giving us drop balls and comings together. You know, I saw Staffy shamelessly say that how could I call it accidental? Well, because again, I think my chair's a bit low. Maybe that's gone a bit harder. Maybe my camera's moved. I just feel a lot lower down than I should be. But I was like, it is accidental. So listen, I hear you on that, and I get it. I've always thought there should be fouls, but I agree with you about the consistency there, 100%. Feels like a Leicester season for Forest. Oh, we've got hope now. That's it. Just hope the Forest win the league now. Arsenal still look at Liverpool's fixtures weekly. Of course. I look at the fixtures weekly, and I'm in a relegation battle, my bro. This confirms something I can prove statistically. Pens always against Arsenal for 30 plus years. There is a bias, and there's decisions confirm it over time. Kenny E here saying they are targeted. Give us your views and opinions in the comment section, people, if you agree with Kenny E on this super chat. Lack of urgency after the penalty is staggering. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with that 100%. And that's why I think this isn't as simple as just the penalty call. You have to look at afterwards. Did Arsenal have a chance, barring Partey's header from a corner after the penalty? I don't think so. And that's why, if I was an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't solely be focusing on the penalty. I'm going to focus on the penalty away from this because I've got not an agenda. I have an agenda, but the agenda isn't PGMOL. It's I want to hear from them and I want to hear about consistency. This one, by the way, will just get classed as definitely a foul. It'll get brushed under the carpet. But there's a consistency issue here that I'd love to ask them about. Both two decisions today, the handball for Newcastle and this one. I'd love to talk to Howard Webb about them and just ask him the questions because I am a bit confused. Even though I think they were both the right decisions, I'm still confused about the consistency in them. But that will confuse some people. Agreeing with something, but still questioning it to understand it deeper. Some people, honestly, you can hear the of their two brain cells clicking together when they're trying to work out how that works. Arsenal got a pen at West Ham after Gabriel got punched in the head. Same thing. But do you know what, Donny? I said the same thing. I've said the same thing about that penalty a few times. I've only ever seen that given a handful of times. Most of the time, the goalkeepers get away with it. The only one I remember before that for years was Hugo Lloris at the World Cup. Do you remember at the World Cup, he punched someone, and then for like 2 or 3 years, I didn't see one. And then it was given. So I agree with you. It's a foul. But why are they not given more regularly? Should be the question. This is the question. Do you know what I'm saying? Feel aggrieved that you actually deserve. Feel aggrieved when you actually deserve to win. This is not a championship winning team. I'm not even interested to watch. Plus, the dark arts garbage is what JT Paul has got to say here. As a fan in the USA, PGMOL has never seemed consistent. Most frustrating as a fan, no accountability. Listen, I understand that. And this is where you know what's going to happen now. So bookmark this, 21 minutes, 30 seconds in. You're going to see a similar situation like this in the next couple of weeks. I know what's going to happen, right? I know, because football writes poetry this way. It'll be Tottenham versus Arsenal. And Arsenal get a penalty for something similar. And Arsenal fans are like, yes! And then VAR slows it down and they say, look, though, Romero gets a very slight touch on the ball. And they overturn it. And then the question will be, well, why do they focus so hard on one to overturn it and not on the other? That's what always happens with these types of calls. So watch it. It's going to happen in the next month. Give it a month. I'd put a little £50 bet on it happening in the next month. Maybe not between Liverpool and, between Tottenham and Arsenal, but I think it will happen. It can be proven over time, confirmed the English refereeing of Arsenal games versus European refs. Multiple sides have bias, by the way. Arsenal is the worst, is what Kenny E says here. Thank you. Listen, Kenny, send me the data on that, bro. I'd like to read it. Whether I agree with you or not, I would like to read it to try and understand your perspective, please. Because I've said before, I think, well, there are biases. We know that referees have confirmed that they have certain clubs, certain players, certain managers they have biases against. We can't all suddenly ignore David Coote, right? We know there's biases. Do I think it is widespread conspiracy against one particular team? No. But we know that some referees can definitely have a bias. I think we'd all agree to that. Well, we know it. It's undeniable now. Referees have admitted. Referees have admitted it. Upsets at the penalty, but take nothing away from Brighton tonight. They were a strong side in the second half. Only Calafiori, Odegaard and Rice even trying at the end of the match. Loss was unlucky, but deserved. Yeah, listen, a big shout out to Brighton. Everyone knows I've got a bit of a soft spot for Brighton. Very good team. Drawn a lot of games recently, but I think the draw against Villa, the draw against Arsenal, they'll see that as points gained due to the quality of those teams. They need a goal scorer back badly, though. Again, Welbeck's very good, but he isn't a prolific goal scorer. If they could find themselves an absolute bagsman, they could be even more dangerous. Keeper got none of the ball at West Ham. Saliba got the ball. That's also what I would like clarity on. Because in our group chat, David sent that to me and said, well, he doesn't win the ball with that little touch. Therefore, it's still a foul. And I hear that argument. But at the same time, if he gets a bigger connection, but they don't win possession because it goes straight back to a Brighton player and still follows through and headbutts him, is that a foul? There's more force on that. You could argue that's more dangerous, right? So this is why I think it's not about Arsenal being robbed or Arsenal not being robbed for me personally. And you guys are all entitled to think what you want. It's about asking questions so we understand. More understanding means we question less moving forward. So there are Arsenal fans who have been criticizing Arsenal for months, justified yet. No set piece bailed us out. The attack was awful. I think that look, this is the problem with the criticism. It's a really good question. I don't think Arsenal fans kicking off that they're good at set pieces was the answer. They still needed a more prolific goal scorer. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. But I don't really see today being that issue. Today's issue for me was the clunky midfield that Arteta picked. It was putting Partey at right back, then taking off Nwaneri and having almost no threat down that right-hand side in the second half. That, for me, was a much bigger issue than... Like, if you could have had Victor Gyökeres up front today, based on that second half performance, what's he going to do? Maybe he picks the ball up and dribbles past two players and bangs it from an acute angle into the top corner, potentially. But what's he going to do? So I understand your point, and I've criticised Arsenal today, and Arsenal should be criticised. Absolutely. I've not once this year said Arsenal fans shouldn't be asking for another top attacker. Throughout the majority of the season, I've been saying that that's absolutely fair. So yeah, of course we'd have to criticise Dan. Absolutely. What is frustrating is people that 1 minute will say this manager's got to go, he's a bum. 2 weeks later, I love this guy. I've always had faith in him. That definitely gets called out. And it will always will, because that's just a madness. Like I've always said, the people that have never rated Arteta, I get them saying those things. I respect them for that. But the ones who flip-flop, weird to me. Pedro, a baller, reminds me of Firmino. Yeah, just not a prolific goal scorer. This is the same Anthony Taylor who helped Arsenal win the FA Cup in 2007, 17 and 2020. Arsenal fans are funny, is what Daniel says here. How did I lie, brother? Well, you lied because you spoke about me asking the question about Arsenal's penalty. And you said that other teams today had their points or their collapse or their mistakes mentioned in the title. The first part of the title refers to big points dropped in big capital letters. So that's why I'm suggesting that you have manipulated the truth somewhat, as though the title is just about the penalty situation, which it is not. Stop the focus on the pen. Did Arsenal deserve to win? If you watched the beginning of the show, we spoke about that and I criticised the performance. Then I spoke about the penalty. The last 15 minutes has been super chats, Finch. And the super chats are based on what you all have got to say. So right now, if somebody says to me, Terry, stop speaking about the performance, well, I can't because Finch has put a super chat in and I'm respecting it. So thank you. How the hell was Gordon not given as a penalty and Pedro given? I don't know the answer. I can't give you an answer. I don't know the reason as to why. I actually thought the one earlier on today was more of a penalty. I know it's his shoulder, so he hasn't... I suppose you could argue he hasn't thrown his shoulder in to make a challenge. But he's caught him with his shoulder because he's got close to him to make a challenge and he's missed the ball because Anthony Gordon's done him. I'd love to ask the referee why it isn't... It looks a foul, but I don't have the understanding of the law deep enough and intricate enough to answer that question. The problem is, what you're going to hear from Dermot Gallagher is because it's not a penalty because the referee didn't think it was a penalty. That's what he's going to say. He's not going to give us any insight. And when they ask him, do you think this was a penalty? He'll say, well, the referee gave it. That's what he'll say. Yeah, but do you think it was one? He'll go, well, the referee's given it and referee's cool. He won't actually give an answer. They do it like that. I've got to give them credit, right? The more I watch it, the more entertained I get. It's fucking hilarious. Do me a favor if you haven't done so already, and please get that like button smashed. I know it isn't the result a lot of Gooners wanted today. For some of you tuning in, it might be the result you wanted, but give the like button a smash. We're bringing out the panel now to have their say on the show. To have their say on the show. Sorry, some of you write some really funny comments. You are hilarious. These ones, Terry. Arsenal drop points, robbed. Other teams bottle it. When Liverpool lost points last year, when Liverpool have had, and I don't know who you support, but when I've done this for all teams that we cover, if I feel they've been robbed or if there's a massive question circulating, I'll talk about it. If it isn't a major talking point and or I don't think they were, I won't talk about it. Man United win tomorrow with a penalty that's identical, I'll ask the same question. Bet you £1,000. But for the £1,000 bet, you've got to put it into an escrow account with me tonight. So that we both know we've got the money there. Have you got the balls? I know I'm going to be consistent. I can do a £1,000 bet with anybody on the consistency. But you've got to put the money in an escrow account until the day comes. Bet you won't do it. Time for the panel now, people. Who we got on the show today? We've got Gunner Sulz. We've got Brandon. We have Ash. We have Matt. We have Nathan. We have man like Sam as well. Welcome, gentlemen. Commiserations on the on the defeat. We're going to go to Sam in a minute. Congratulations being top of the league, though, Real Madrid. Not bad for a team that you wanted sold and sacked a few weeks ago. Well done on being top of the league.
Oh, you are shameless.
You're shameless. You wanted your whole team sacked. None of Sulz. What went wrong today, brother?
What went right is the real question. I don't think anything went right. I think, obviously, from the get-go, I mean, people can have their arguments about the lineup and whether that was the good choice in terms of the midfield. We've seen it before, and we've seen how pragmatic it is. There's no real creativity in someone finding a killer pass and someone that's able to open up their defense. You know, Brighton are a team that can concede a lot of opportunities to their oppositions. I mean, they've not won in the last 7 or 8 games. That's the kind of time where you've got to pounce, especially as a title challenger or someone who's going to go on to win the title. You know, we needed to show a lot more. People that are going to complain about the penalty, whether it's a penalty or not, we needed to get a second goal regardless. So that doesn't really change the outcome or the outlook of how we look at this game, because 1-0 against a team like Brighton is still not good enough. I'm not saying at the end result, but being 1-0 is in a comfortable position against a team that can actually go and put the ball away. They've got a lot of talent. You know, they're one of the most talented teams in the league, and a lot of people are looking to get their players like Carlos, Baleba, for example. You've got Mitoma could come off the bench. Joao Pedro can get a goal out of nothing. You know, their defenders are tall and strong as well. So set pieces aren't going to be a problem for them to get a goal. And it went wrong from the get-go. I mean, Ethan Nwaneri coming off at half-time, and he's been our biggest spark. Trossard, useless as always. I mean, I don't care if the Boon's getting teased. The guy cannot start a game. I don't care what anyone says. He's never going to be a starter. He's off the bench. Otherwise, just turn your TVs off because we're losing that game. He's useless as a starter. Impact sub, I'm perfectly fine with. He can change a game and impact a game, but he's just not someone who can start off the game and actually give us enough of what we need. But then again, the other opportunity is picking your poison. Do you go for Martinelli? Do you go for Trossard? Should Ethan Nwaneri have been in that midfield to kind of just balance things out and have a bit more creativity and a like for like in some ways to an Odegaard, someone who can, open up defenses and someone who's got that bravery to be in midfield, rather than just having 3 big, tall, combative midfielders, just wasn't going to work. Yes, you've got runners. Yes, you've got Georginio. And then you put Partey at right back, which you didn't have a choice to do. But the in-game management, again, is something that's concerning. And again, we failed to capitalize on opportunities like Brighton. Why didn't we capitalize? Fulham and Everton, when we drop points. The statement that I made that we can hunt them and we can actually chase them down isn't incorrect. It's just the fact this team doesn't have the balls to carry it out. And that's the reality of it. It's Bukayo, Saka, Odegaard, Kai Havertz, who are the ones who are carrying this team. Without them, you can see the big, big drop-off in the performances that we're seeing. Saka's not there. Havertz hasn't been there, and the performance has been poor. Saliba and Gabriel are the only other 2 that can actually hold their heads up and say, do you know what? We try every single week. But as soon as certain things don't go right for Arteta, as soon as certain players aren't available to him, it's like he galaxy brains the hell out of everything. Sometimes football isn't rocket science. Just play the profiles that you have in the right positions, and you might actually see your football. You don't need to tweak it too much. You don't need to overdo it. You don't need to overthink it. You've got a system which has been very successful. Yes, we haven't won the trophies, but we are churning out results with. And you decide to go and change the profiles who fit that mold. It's just sometimes, you've got to look at the manager and go, do you know what? You got it wrong. And are you going to get it right? Are you going to prove to us that your in-game management can improve? And are we going to continuously ask the same questions year in, year out? Now, this isn't me saying Arteta out. This isn't me saying Arteta in. But I've always, my notion is it's over to the players and the managers to prove to us why they deserve another opportunity. The same way with Martinelli, the same way with Trossard. It's up to them to prove to us why they deserve to continue wearing the Arsenal shirt and why they should represent the club. It's not about me saying it. It's not about anyone in this. I hate the Arteta in and out conversation. It's over to them to show us, repay the faith, because we give Arteta and this team and this squad a lot of faith over the years. We've taken a lot of slack as fans, finishing eighth, bottling top 4, bottling the league again, and now bottling the league for the 3rd time. And we're taking that slack on as fans who support them week in, week out. We come on social media, we go to our friendship groups, go to the pubs, whatever, and back the team and put our faces on the line and our names on the line every single week as a fan base to be repaid in this way. I think they just need to gain our trust again, because at the moment, not a single one of their shirts should be safe. Every single one of them should be up for the chopping block, and they need to prove it to us why they deserve another summer.
I understand that, Sulz. Ash, how do you see that? Because it does feel, when looking at the comments, looking at everybody on socials, that most Arsenal fans have conceded the title race from this point. But what did you make of today's performance in isolation?
Horrendous in every freaking way, man. That midfield of Georginio, Rice, and Moreno is criminal. Criminal. I was saying this in the watch along. Nothing Brighton did today was like, oh my God, this is shocking. Oh my God, Brighton are actually playing a different style of football. Oh my God, Brighton are so damn good. Every single thing they did today is the exact same way Brighton have been setting up and playing every single week, every single season for the last couple of years. We piped them at their ground the last 2 seasons because they press like insane press, and they leave people at back. That's why we scored our only goal. Knowing that, how are you going into a game when you have your best 2 passers, Partey and Odegaard? One of them is sitting on the bench and the other is playing as a right back. I was doing a show with Saad where I said he should be playing Calafiori as right back and Lewis Kelly because he needs to keep Partey in the middle. And the guy goes and takes the best player from the last game and one of our best players this season, plays him as a right back instead of playing Calafiori and Lewis Kelly, and benches Odegaard when you know that the only way to exploit Brighton's high line is to have good passes in the middle, who can play that kind of through ball, who can play the ball over the top. Martinelli coming on is like Martinelli sitting on the bench. Literally, there was no difference whatsoever. I was on this panel a couple of weeks ago and I was arguing with people and saying he should never be playing on the right. People are like, oh yeah, but then he has less to think about. It doesn't work that way because he only knows how to go on the outside. It becomes so damn easy to stop him. He literally came off the bench and I'm trying to think of one good thing he did and that was nothing. At least Trossard could cut it on the left. It's stupid, silly mistakes, man. Silly mistakes that for me, I know people will reference the penalty. I'll just get the penalty thing out of the way quickly for me. Whether it's a penalty or not, I don't give a shit. I actually thought it was too soft to be given as a penalty. But even if it is a penalty, the annoying thing about it is why the hell is Taylor looking at Joao Pedro for 3 seconds and then decided, okay, now I'll blow the whistle. Are you waiting for some genie to come out of him and say, hey, by the way, ref, penalty? You're looking at him for 3 seconds and then you decided to blow the whistle. What happened in those 3 seconds for you to think, you know what, I'm going to give that? That's the only thing I have. If he blew the whistle and gave it immediately, I don't give a shit. We move on. But penalty or not, we didn't deserve to win that game. So damn lethargic, so damn lackadaisical. And you know this is, Brighton didn't surprise us today. Nothing they did today made me think like, man, these guys were just too good for us. We just didn't exploit. And I know people will reference it, yeah, but you didn't create any major chance. But that's not because that's not because Brighton were defending really well. It's because we were coming to the final third and not just putting the correct through ball. We did it once the whole game and Nwaneri went through 1-on-1 and scored. And we had other opportunities. This is 100% on the manager for me. I know Sulz will say the players need to earn our trust, all the crap. I think the manager needs to earn our trust, not the players. The manager needs to show, hey, I can play some of the best attacking football as I've showed you the last 2 seasons. Why the hell am I pussyfooting and trying to play this kind of crap football? Why are you starting a midfield? Why are you starting essentially 3 DMs against freaking Brighton, who have a lot of players missing, and didn't start freaking Matoma either? It's ridiculous, man. Every single time I think there's a 1 or 2% chance of us catching Liverpool, it gets obliterated instantly. And you know what's even more annoying? And I'm telling you guys, it's written in the freaking stars. Tomorrow, watch Liverpool drop points against United. Somehow, shockingly, right? Watch Liverpool somehow drop points tomorrow, like what happened last time against Fulham and Newcastle, when we also bottled it and dropped points to Fulham and freaking Everton.
The game
and then
might
we'll
not
come
even
out
be played.
and we'll come out all giddy and stuff. Oh wait, you know what? Maybe we have a chance. There's no chance. It's over. The league is done. We need to freaking just focus on the Champions League. It's so damn pissing off, man, because this is not a team. I don't look at Brighton and think, man, this is the 10th best team in the league. I look at Brighton and think this is a shit team that presses like maniacs. I was doing the watch along and I was telling the guys on the comments that look at the way they press. They commit 6-7 people, 1 or 2 good passes forward, and they're ripped open. I don't understand why they do that. But somehow it worked against us. Ridiculous game, man, honestly.
I hear, listen, I hope we take something off Liverpool tomorrow, but don't hold your breath, Ash. You'll go blue. You'll go blue, bruv.
Bro, if you guys are losing, then I hope Liverpool slap you guys 7 or 8. at least make it entertaining for us.
Don't be a 1-1.
Just a quick update. It turns out Nwaneri was taken off because he's got a muscle injury. So I think Arteta has said here, someone sent me a DM here saying really bad news because I think we have lost him. We had to take him up at half time with some muscle issues. So I criticised him for taking him off. It turns out that's an injury. Obviously, I'll take back the criticism of Mikel Arteta because he had to take him off. But if that news is true, Nathan, I know we get slightly off topic of the game. If the news is true that you've now lost Nwaneri for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, surely you've got to go big now this week in the transfer window and spend some money. Because I know the league's over, but the Champions League's still there. There's 2 domestic trophies still. Surely with Nwaneri. I mean, if you've got no Nwaneri next week as well, I fancy Man United to do you at the Emirates. It's a joke, but you guys have got to spend money now.
Go into that game.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, yeah, we needed reinforcements before the injury. I mean, today's lineup for me was indicative of why I've kind of been surprised by those who believe that we can go out and win the title, because it just shows when there is a Saka missing or an Odegaard missing, there isn't a direct replacement to come in and be able to fill in like for like or offer us what those 2 players do. We have to kind of rearrange. We've got to change our whole semblance of play. So Ethan being out is just, again, it's just another gut blow in terms of it shows how thin our squad is. You know, we're relying on a 17-year-old who is essentially, this is his essential breakout season. We never had no idea of how he was going to do in the season, so to speak. He could have struggled, men's football, the adaptation from men's football from under 21s is completely different. And yeah, he's taken to it like a duck does water, but it's very frustrating. And for me, this game today, I know a lot of people have talked about the manager's lineup, but for me, it just shows why I never had no belief. Our front line is horrendous. It is the poorest from the top 6. It is, Brighton have more forward options or viable forward options in their front line than we do. I mean, Trossard offers nothing. Martinelli today came on the right wing, did nothing. I mean, I was one of the people who said I was intrigued to see could Martinelli potentially do something on the right-hand side, because he wasn't pulling up trees. And I feel like we've given a lot of these players enough rope to hang themselves with. And I feel like from the beginning of the season, I'd already made my mind up that we needed improvements in those positions. There was enough evidence had been seen in previous seasons to show that we're extremely short. And there was a few situations, just to touch on what Ash was saying. I don't think we played well today. And yeah, the performance wasn't great, but there was also times where we won the ball back in transition. We don't have players who have that threat in transition or that killer instinct to go and be direct. I remember specifically in the first half. Was it the first half? No, in the second. I think it was in the second half where we won the ball back, and then Jesus and Trossard end up dicking around with the ball. And it's in them situations where you look at the likes of, let's say, for instance, our closest rivals is Liverpool. They've got the likes of Diaz, Jota, Salah, who would take that ball and just attack the space. And we argue, is that a manager thing? I don't think Arteta is implementing the counter press to then tell the players, oh, when we get into their box, let's now turn around and pass back. No manager in world football is asking that of his players, right? So there is a lot we can criticize the manager about. I'm not disagreeing that the manager is completely blameless, but I also feel like the lack of quality in this squad is, especially in forward areas, is dire. And we even see it in the first half. Jesus making, like, I think it was a pass that I believe Thomas Partey made a pass to him, and he makes, he's clearly watching the line clearly, but still strays offside. It's little things like that you just see. Like, you have players of better quality, they'll make the difference. And all in all, today's game for me is it's frustrating because I don't think we played well. But I also don't feel like Brighton did anything other than when momentum swung and they got their goal via the penalty to kind of win the game. Either it was one of those kind of gritty games. And
the word for it is it was a damp squib. It was just.
I just wanted to. By the way, they could have won the game because Minteh should have scored that, or at least. I agree. But I wanted to just say one thing, Nathan, regarding what you said. I think it is a manager's thing. I know what you're saying, that the manager will not be telling them, hey, slow the game down. But he also could not be telling them or giving them instructions to attack quickly, which is the same thing as telling them to slow the game down. Look at Chelsea. I will say this to Maresca. Every time they win a corner, it's like Liverpool. 5, 6, 7 players go sprinting forward. You're not telling me now that Gusto and Sancho and Madueke have that mentality. They don't. It's manager's instructions. If your manager doesn't tell you when you win the ball, I need 4 of you to sprint forward, that's like telling you that's like him saying that, hey, don't attack, because him not giving that instruction is also as bad, in my opinion.
No, but
every time we win the counter, you cannot be telling me you cannot be convincing me 5 or 6 players are intentionally slowing down the game.
No, but what you're talking about is in general. I'm talking about in moments, because because what you're talking about is a style of play. Our style of play in general doesn't mean we attack in droves like you just explained. But there are moments where we counter press and we win that ball up high, and their players will run forward, and then they will kind of step backwards and go backwards. That is where I put
but Nathan, it's all related though, because when I give the example of Liverpool and Chelsea, I give the example of corners, but they don't only do it in corners; they do it in everything else. You cannot pick and choose. Not you. I mean, I'm talking to the manager. If you are trying to play a super conservative game generally and slow build up and control the game, that mentality will get drilled in everything else they do, right? Yes, there will be occasions sometimes when Raya gets the ball and Martinelli is waiting forward and he throws it forward. I get that'll happen. But 90% of the times, that mentality you're drilling in them to slow down attacks will carry on in everything else. It's not a switch that they can just switch off, switch on, switch off, switch on that way, which is why I think Liverpool do it, and even Chelsea, to be fair, do it a lot.
What do you say the Barcelona squad and even the City squad were teams that were controlling teams, but there were times where when they did win the ball up in counter press, they were direct. They would go for the throat. So what I'm saying to you is, if that is what the manager is asking for in terms of and the players don't have the ability to do it, like you see with Trossard is not a player, for instance, who has pace to exploit in transition. So therefore, in certain periods he feels he has to go back. Jesus is Jesus.
I tell you a player that can fix that for you. Marcus Rashford is very, very direct. So
we are not going anywhere near him.
Brandon, I wanted to ask you. I'm not listening to your transfer news anymore. You spent 6 months in our group chat telling every single. Who is in the Football Terrace group chat?
I was right about Nwaneri though.
When I used to be in the football chat, Matt used to annoy me all the time. Yeah. Everything.
Matt said, according to his source and what he knows, 100% Man United are getting Gareth Southgate. 100%. He wouldn't even hear a suggestion of not getting. So that when you say Arsenal definitely ain't getting Rashford, that tells me you fucking are. And Brandon, I wanted to kind of go to you. Not your overall match review per se, but I didn't say this at the beginning of the video because I wanted to wait for you. I didn't want to steal your thunder in any capacity. Based on what the boys were just talking about as well. I watched today for what you said in the last game, and I noticed it so much. It's just something that I didn't see before, where you get the ball in a good position. And I understand the need to recycle the ball at the right times, but the amount of times where I thought, well, there's an opening for a pass there, or you can make a run at that point. And I don't think you should do it every time because you can become predictable. But you are right. The amount of times you recycle the ball in good positions when you don't necessarily need to, that feels like a real issue in terms of slowing down your play, and it enables Brighton to set and other teams to set. Is that what you were talking about on the last show?
Yeah, 100%, Tel. It's not just when Arsenal are winning the game. It's also when Arsenal are drawing or losing the game. I don't get this whole fascination with having to recycle the ball all the time. The only thing that I can think of is that we don't have, as Nathan pointed out, players that can run off the shoulder anymore. You know, when we had Aubameyang up front, for example, pace, power, you got a player there who's going to run off the shoulder of the defender. All of our attacking players want to come deep. They want the ball at feet. Jesus wants the ball at feet. Nwaneri wants the ball at feet. Trossard wants the ball at feet. Nobody wants to run in behind. Nobody. But having said that, I still believe this is the manager's instructions because I've heard him barking orders to Martinelli on the sidelines on a number of occasions saying, do not lose the ball, do not lose the ball. So in other words, what he's trying to say is you haven't got the quality to hurt teams. So the best way that we can hurt them is to retain the ball so we don't lose it on the transition. And then hopefully, we rely on moments players. And we see it again today, Tel, right? In isolation, when you look at today's game is on the manager, and it's another example again of the manager not being good enough in-game management, right? I'd like to talk about his lineup to begin with, but having said that, that lineup that he picked today had us winning the game 1-0. When it comes to in-game management, now I didn't know Ethan Nwaneri went off injured. So I was going to come on and talk a lot about that. But having said that, you know, it's been told now that Ethan Nwaneri went off injured. There was a number of Arsenal players that could have come off in that first half. Yeah. Georginio was poor. Trossard was poor. So if you're taking Ethan off because he's got an injury issue or because you just decided to take him off, you have to do something in that midfield so that Arsenal still offer something in attack. I know we're winning the game, right? But no game in the Premier League is over at 1-0, especially at 45 minutes, right? So the fact that he took our most creative player off and then brought on Martinelli, who offered absolutely nothing when he came on, by the way, allowed Trossard to play nearly 90 minutes. Georginio, he only decided to bring him off and bring on Odegaard when it went to 1-1. And then you're wondering why Arsenal can't create anything when you've got Odegaard on the pitch, who we're told didn't start the game today because he wasn't 100% fit. And you could tell that as well. He barely had a touch of the ball. And then you got Brighton going up the other end at 1-1 when the game swings, as the lads had just said. And they're the ones who create the most dangerous chances throughout the rest of the game. Arsenal offered absolutely nothing because, again, we're going forward. Yeah. We get ourselves into a position and we're playing the ball backwards, sideways, and all the rest of it. There was a lot of players that underperformed today, 100%. But for me, yeah, Sulz mentioned it earlier. Can this manager improve in his in-game management? Well, Sulz, let me tell you, 2 seasons ago, 3-3 at Southampton, that was Arteta's doing. Yeah. Last season, when we could have beat Aston Villa and that would have won us the league, that was Arteta's doing as well, by bringing Zinchenko back into the fold when we could barely see him all season. There are a number of occasions where the manager has cost us in terms of his lineup or in terms of his in-game management. And we've seen it again today, and we see it at Fulham, we see it at Everton, we see it at Bournemouth, right? Arsenal go down to 10 men, and people are telling me, but we're down to 10 men, we can't win the game. Well, at that point, it was still 0-0, and he didn't really have to make a change, but he decides to bring on Kivior, and Kivior ends up being one of the guys that costs us one of the goals against Bournemouth. So I've seen this on a number of occasions that the manager has cost us in terms of his in-game management. However, let's just go all the way back to the summer, guys. Yeah? Because we're seeing right now, if we haven't got Bukayo Saka available, which he's not, and we haven't got Martin Odegaard on the pitch, we're left with a midfield free of effectively 3 defensive midfielders in Marino, Rice, and Georginio, with Partey at right back. Or even if you take Georginio out of that and you've got Partey in there, there is no creativity in that midfield. So that, to me, is poor squad building. Poor squad building, right? The fact that we are even relying on Ethan Nwaneri, a 17-year-old kid, is horrendous in the first place, and it should never have ever have happened.
It's fine for isolated games, though. It's fine for like a one-off.
Yeah, 100%.
So
in isolation, you can look at today's game and you can say, look, you know, in isolation, you can use a 17-year-old. In isolation, Ethan Nwaneri was our best player on in terms of creativity on the pitch. It's unfortunate he has to come off injured, right? But Arsenal should never be in this position 5 years into a process in the first place. We should have cover for Odegaard. We should have cover for Saka. But we haven't done that.
One second. I just want to say one thing. Brendan, you come on every show that we drop points and everything is Arteta's fault. Sometimes
okay, tell me how today's not Arteta's fault then again.
No. Sometimes it's not always on the manager. Sometimes it's not always. Sometimes you got to look at some of the things around you and say to yourself, hey, how is it that you guys are 1-0 up, right? And the referee gives that ridiculous decision, number one. Number two, right? You're going to sit here and you're going to start speaking about how Arteta didn't game manage. Arteta put out the best attacking player on our team that we have available out there, and he had him available for the second half. Odegaard didn't do anything when he came on. Let's be honest. You're making fun of, you're criticizing the midfield that was defensive. That midfield that was defensive, Mikel Moreno picked out the pass for Ethan. You've yet to mention him once. So my thing about you, Brendan, is everything that's negative has to revolve around the manager and criticize the manager and how the squad is bad and how this is not good enough. But yet you still expect him to perform to a high level, and you discredit the fact that we're in this situation because of the manager. You discredit the fact that the same squad who you deem not good enough and has not been good enough to your standards is what we've been competing with on all fronts for the last 2 years, or at least trying to compete with to that level over the last 2 years. And if you think this team is bad, 2 years ago you thought that team was dog shit, and you're throwing in your towel after every drop points. Really and truly, I've said this to you before. You never believed in the first place. You don't believe this team. You don't believe in the squad. You don't believe in this manager. So every single time we have any time where we drop points, you're going to use it as an opportunity to beat the manager with the stick. And I don't think today is on Arteta. Arteta found a way without Bukayo Saka, without Kai Havertz, to have us in the game leading 1-0 for majority of the game. The penalty decision happened. That's completely out of everybody's control. You could say it's on Saliba. You could say it's on Anthony Taylor. Whichever way you slice it, it's not on the manager. Next. Now, if you say, oh, the remaining part of the game, why didn't we go on to push on to score? Why didn't we go on to do things? You know something? He put his best attacking players that he had to disposal out there. He put the players out there that he thought were the best players to get us the job. Guess what? They didn't do the business in the second half. I'm not going to put this. I'm not going to put this all on Arteta, because he's not the one missing chances at the end of the day. He's not the one who's telling Martinelli, oh, slow down when you have the ball in the final third on a breakaway. No, he's not. And to say all of these things come back down to Arteta, guys, we are undefeated in our last 14 games, and we dropped 1 point. God. We dropped 1 point in this game, and all of a sudden we're throwing our toys at the pen and saying Arteta's the problem. Everything's down to Arteta. Arteta has done a fantastic job so far this season. He's not the majority of the season. For the majority of the season, we have had to deal with a backline that has been chopped and changed week in, week out. We've had to deal with the midfield that's been chopped and changed week in, week out. Now we have to deal with an attack with 2 of our best attackers out of the team, and you guys have the audacity to sit here after that drop point in the manner that we drop points today, to sit here and say it's on Arteta, to talk about Arteta. Get the hell out of here.
Because it is on Arteta.
Let me respond.
Two things can exist. You can say he's done a good job until. Go ahead.
Guys, can I respond? Let me respond, right? Egal, 100% call the players out. I've just done that. Yeah, I've just done that. While I sit here and say about the manager, I have called out individual players as well. However, Egal, we're 5 years deep into this process under this manager with the money that's been spent. So why you can sit here and say, yeah, this player, he put his best players out there and they didn't do the business. Who builds the fucking squad, Egal? Who builds the squad?
Edu.
The manager.
The sport director.
Who invests in these players, Egal? The manager. Yeah? These players were bought by the fucking manager. Yeah? That's why our midfield's dead today, because he invested in Mikel Merino. He invested in the likes of Calafiori, who's a defender that he can't trust to play at right back, so he moves our best creative, other than Odegaard, midfielder to right back. He's the reason why we chop and change all the time. He's the fucking reason, Egal. So why you can sit here and say, oh, the manager takes no blame? He takes all the blame. Yeah? He's the manager. Fucking hell, do me a favour, man. We're in a 5-year process. We're supposed to be going on to win the league this season, and you're sitting here going, "Oh, but we're unbeaten. We're unbeaten." Okay,
yeah, but
we'll see what you say at the end of the season when Liverpool win the league and Arsenal win fuck all again. Yeah, where's your excuses going to be then? I'm sick and tired of your excuses and your bullshit, Egal.
We've had a relatively difficult season, and you have to acknowledge that the manager's keeping it together. He's been the one
good season.
Yeah, we have.
We watching Arnie Slot in his first year as Liverpool manager absolutely show everybody up. Show this manager, after sitting there saying 5 years, it takes 5 years, I need all my players, I need all this money. Yeah, we give him the 5 years, we give him all his money. And what's he doing now? He's getting shown up by a guy who's had, 5 months in the league?
Yeah,
Brandon, hold on. Let me interject here, because I agree. I do agree with you, Brandon. Right, hold on. Let me interject here. Yeah.
Stop. 1 second, brother. It's between me and Brandon. Let me finish, please. Brandon, what you need to understand is, my point is, you were first to discard the referee decision and say, "Oh, okay, forget about the referee decision." But yet, you've not called out Saliba. on this on that. Since you're saying, oh, forget about the referee decision, you're not blaming Saliba for the penalty. Besides the penalty, Brighton were not breaking us down at all. They were never going to get a goal. They were never going to score a goal against us today. The manager set us up to win that game. The players dropped points. You can say it's on the manager as much as you want, but the same manager who you are constantly saying hasn't gotten us over the line is the one who got us into a title race with a team that deemed fit enough to even get top 4. So you need to take a reality check and realize that what you are asking for and what you are expecting sometimes is not lining up with what you are saying you're witnessing on a weekly basis. No. Let me finish, because you are constantly here to berate the players, to talk about the squad, to talk about all the issues that the manager has to deal with, and at the same time heavily criticize him for things that are sometimes not in his control. Today's performance and the result, yes, it might not have been the best, but at the same time the manager was trying to do his best to deal with the unprecedented issues he had on his hand. He had Saka out, he had Havertz out, he had a penalty that was given out of absolutely nowhere. He had the team set up defensively, shutting down Brighton in their home ground, asking them to see what can you do to try to do something against us, and they couldn't do nothing. If it wasn't for Anthony Taylor or if it wasn't for Saliba, whichever one you want to pick, it was on them today, and it was not on Arteta solely. But you want to take everything out, negate every other factor, and solely blame the manager. I think that is wrong, and I think today, if you sit here and tell me you've ever seen that penalty given before in your life, you're an absolute liar.
Okay. Again, I've already said this. While I agree that I personally don't feel as though that is a penalty, right? It's been given, right? So it's 1-1. Who looked like going on to win that game, Egal? Arsenal or Brighton?
Arsenal were never going to concede.
No. When it goes 1-1, who looked like going on to win the game, Egal?
Who looked more
like? Hang on. Deo, let Egal answer. Who looked the more likely to go on to win the game after it goes 1-1, Egal?
It was a smash and grab for either team.
I can't hear Egal. Hang on. Go on, Egal.
Egal, you're on mute.
I think you muted yourself.
Egal, you're on mute.
Egal, you're on mute, bro. You're on mute.
We cannot hear you. We can't hear you.
Why am I mute? You see, you guys remember this. Mute yourselves when it's not your turn to speak. It'll help. Also, number one, you're right, Brendan. Guess what? It was 50-50. But you want to say Brighton had better chances? You can say that. But overall, second after they scored, it was 50-50. And the reason why I'm saying to you, you are seeing things to suit your argument. I am trying to sit here.
It's not about suiting my argument, Egal.
Brendan, you have a stance. You're not going to change from it. You sat here right now and said, and you said that everything's on Arteta, negating the fact that the player made a mistake that gave away a penalty, negating the fact that he put out his best attacking players that he had to his disposal, negating the fact that, guess what? Sometimes it's not all on the manager. You want to put it all on the manager because you think the manager getting replaced is the difference between us winning or losing. And also, finally, stop doing this. One thing, stop letting other teams and what they do dictate how you feel about your team, because that's a mistake. That's a mistake. That's a mistake that I've been making. I am not going to sit here after every single Liverpool result and measure up how we are doing compared to them, because at the end of the day, all we can do is control what we do. Yes, we dropped points today, but at the same time, we've been doing relatively good for the last couple of weeks. I'm not going to sit here and berate the manager and say, this is why he needs to go. This is why this has to happen. I don't think today's on Arteta. You think it's on Arteta. Fair enough. I'm not going to change your mind, but this is why I think you're wrong. And if you don't agree with it, fly kick a monkey.
I know Terry wants to move on, so I'm going to make this my last point, right? I don't base what I see today, on other teams around us are doing what they're doing. I base this on 3 years out of the 5 of Arsenal showing the same level of performances, the same performances that have dropped points that have ended up going on to cost us league titles in the end, or to cost us trophies in the end. This is not in isolation today, right? We talk about the game in isolation, but as I've already pointed out, we could go back to the summer to talk about today. Why have we got no creativity in the midfield when Martin Odegaard is sat on the bench?
Irrelevant.
Why?
It's
Hang on.
irrelevant.
It's not
It's
irrelevant,
irrelevant.
Miguel.
That's
Miguel, it's not relevant. It's not
Okay, I'm
relevant.
sorry for that.
You were one of the
I'm sorry.
fans. No. You were one of the fans who sat there and said, after the summer
We're in
transfer
a
window,
January window.
that it was a 7 out of 10 window, right? So my question is, when it goes to 1-1, we've all just sat here and said, or you'd like to say it was a 50-50, yeah? In my opinion, Brighton look more likely to go on to win the game this tonight, right? After it goes 1-1. So why is that? Because Arsenal struggle to create anything. So why have we got no creativity in the side when Martin Odegaard is out? Hang on. Why? Because we didn't do enough in the summer.
50-50. There were opportunities to win that
Oh,
game.
you lot talk shit, honestly.
It's not his fault that the players are missing up. Oh, okay, they're both gone.
So, like, okay, Brandon's gone. I find it funny. I find it
Right,
funny.
they're both gone.
Wait, have they both gone?
Bro, they're both gone.
I just find it.
I thought Terry removed both of them. I was like, how would he do that?
Bro, they left both of them.
You know what? I want to go to Dio. Then I'm going to go to both Sams. As I haven't said anything yet. But Dio, what are you saying, bro, about today?
Today's game, honestly, I think Mikel Arteta went in there to win 1-0. I think he set up that team. Like, I looked at the midfield. You had Odegaard on the bench, your most creative player. You said he has a knock. You don't have Saka. You don't have Havertz. But you played a midfield that is defensive enough. And Ethan did what Ethan did. You know, the boy showed that he's able. But after that goal, Ethan was locked up by Estepinian, which is why I was okay with him bringing in Martinelli, who's a more experienced player, to go against a more experienced defender. Ethan did nothing after that goal, and it's not to his fault. It's because he's going up against an experienced defender. So for me, that penalty was a penalty. Saliba was late. Joao Pedro got to the ball first. Saliba head-butted him on the side of the face. From me, your front head to the side of the face, it's a foul in the box. It's a penalty, 1-1. And then what does the manager do at 1-1? He brings in the most creative player that he has. That's good in-game management. He brings in Odegaard and takes out Georginio. This same Georginio that we don't rate, and Marino and all of them, were the ones who were leading 1-0. This was the squad that was leading 1-0 up until Saliba's. That was in that 30 seconds or that 2 seconds mistake that he made that caused the penalty. Now, after the penalty, we didn't look like we were going to score, but we also didn't look like we were going to let Brighton score against us. That was where I was upset. And of course, with Gabriel Jesus missing that chance earlier in the game, which I thought he should have put away. But yeah, all in all, I think we went.
It was offside. It was offside.
Yeah, he was offside. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry, my bad. He was offside. But my thing is, all in all, I was this game was a game that I think Mikel Arteta wanted to just win 1-0. He just wanted to go in there. He's like, I'm going to have to work with what I have. If I go to this place, once I get a goal, I have very defensive midfielders. I'm going to swap Ethan out. I'm sure he had that plan from the get-go, but then Ethan also got injured, from what I understand now. But yeah, it was annoying to drop points, but this game was on Saliba. I think Saliba should have just held his position, allow Joao Pedro head that ball, and I'll tell you why. And Gabriel should have won the first ball. Once you're in the box, it becomes hard. You just don't
I hear. Do you know what? Every time I hear someone say it's a penalty, I go, I get where you're coming from. I can see it. And I've always thought they were. All I've got in my head is, I've seen a few people tweet this as well. If Saliba grabs his head and holds it on the floor as well, I guarantee you they treat them both and do a drop ball and they say it's coming together. That's the only thing I'd say about it. And some people, there's a comment that someone said here, Terry, if you go in 2-footed with your studs showing, but get a touch on the ball first, it's still a red card. Yes, because a 2-footed stud showing tackle is a red card whether you win the ball or not. But Terry, I don't.
And also, sorry, sorry. Go on. Can I just finish? I just wanted to add this. Like when I said that, for me, it was on the players today. Georginio studying somebody off the ball. That was a red card offense. Like I was so mad.
So he kicks off. I've not seen the footage of that.
Yeah, he kicked someone.
It was the penalty. The penalty that Joao Pedro took. Georginio got pulled and he reacted and kicked. He laughed out of the other guy.
Okay.
He didn't touch him, but he tried to kick him.
He tried to kick. So my thing was those individual errors cost us the game today. I think Mikel Arteta set us up to just go win 1-0.
Okay.
Those individual stupid like head loss.
But Dio, don't you think that's that Georginio thing's redundant to bring up? Because who did we see the other week? I think it was a Brighton player, wasn't it?
Pedro, who actually scored the penalty.
Yeah, Pedro. I was about to say, if you don't make contact now, they've made. I think that's why. What's his face? I think that's sorry, guys. I think that's why Van Dijk got away with a red card when he kicked out at Kai Havertz because he didn't really make full contact with him, and there's a thing on it. But I just on the penalty very quickly, I understand everyone that says it is. Some people have got agendas. If they don't like Arsenal, they don't like Arteta. Some will just say it's a penalty, even if they don't think it is. I've always felt they should be fouls. So someone said, well, how can you defend it? But I just feel like most of the time they're giving us drop balls. And all I'm asking, and I know it's hard for Arsenal fans because you're very emotional right now because you've just dropped points, but I would love to ask ex-referees, current referees, the PGMOL, give us the distinctions. Because I'll give you an example. If that's a penalty, then what David Luiz did to Raul Jimenez should be a red card. He fractured his fucking skull, right? And you talk about endangering an opponent. If you go, that means every header you win a corner with is theoretically endangering an opponent, because if you miss the ball and hit their head, you could literally end their career. So I just want to get the distinction around why this one. What about when it's like bigger, harder head clashes? Because a lot of the time when you see those head clashes in the middle of the pitch, they never give fouls. You nearly always see one player get the ball to the head first, then the clash happens. They never give them as fouls. So I think they should. By the way, I would. Yeah. So that's my only question about it. You know, that's my only question about it.
Sorry, I just want to throw in one fun fact. One fun fact again. I'm just going to throw. And after this, I got to head on, go help with the baby. Fun fact is this: game week 20 last season, Arsenal were 38 points. This season, we're at 40 points. We lost the season last year by 2 points. I'm not saying we're winning this year, but
last year we were 40, yeah,
40, yeah, sorry,
same
40
points.
Same points. Okay, so we're at the same points that we were last season, literally. And
so we stagnated.
No. So here's what I'm saying, Ash. I'm saying, but there is a narrative that we have dropped off the way people paint it. I'm just saying, look, hey,
yeah, it's not true.
We might not look good to the eyes. You might not. The optics might not be great. Right. You know, you might not like the optics, but the points on the board speak. Right now, Liverpool is doing the madness. This was the same thing last season. At this point, Liverpool was 5 points ahead of us. This season, they have a game in hand. I get that, you know, all of that good stuff. But it was the same number of points last season, 5 points at game week 20. You know, so and at game week 38, it was a 7-point swing. So we'll see.
I hear you guys. DJ here, one of our members. Why weren't they giving pens for that in the 90s? Great point, Tel. Yeah, listen, some of you will say I'm having a mare. Some of you will say that I'm speaking nonsense. I think what I'm saying holds a lot of water. I think it holds a lot of water. Just like the handball today that led to the goal against Spurs, we would all be honest. We've all seen goals disallowed for similar handballs. So my question is, I'd love to speak to the referees and understand why the change, why this one was different, and how they're going to look to implement that more consistently moving forward. Because from my perspective, it's about the consistency. I understand why people think today's one's a foul. Equally, like I say, if Saliba goes down holding his head, I guarantee they don't give it. Because whenever I've seen a head clash, any other time, back from the 90s up until last fucking week, every head clash I've ever seen, I've never seen a foul given. It's nearly always.
Did Saliba actually get a touch on the ball? Just out of curiosity, I'm just
he did.
He does, yeah. So
because the reason why I asked this question is if this was a ground tackle and someone knocks the ball past me and I get my toe onto the ball and then I take the play and then I hit the player afterwards, usually that wouldn't be given as a penalty. So because I see a lot of people using that example of it doesn't matter that he got a touch on the ball. He still followed through with the player. So
just to show you guys before we go into that. So this is the slow-mo of it here. I'm going to just slow it down so you can see as the ball comes off Pedro's head. You see the direction the ball's going in, and it looks like it comes off the top here of Saliba's head because you watch the ball go up from that point. Like it flies up in the air. So there is a touch, and I've seen that argument as well, Nathan, and I think it holds water. He didn't win the ball, but again, if somebody looks to take the ball around you, so they get the first touch. You slide, your toe touches the ball away from them, but then you trip them up. VAR stops it from being a penalty because you got a touch on the ball. Again, maybe this is different because it's a head and you followed through and hit someone. So maybe that's what it is. I would just love to hit. What the worst part about it is, unless they speak about it on the Sky show with Howard Webb, you know what Dermot Gallagher's saying. He's just going to say, well, it was given. But why? Because it was given. The worst part for us as fans is we're not going to be told. And there might be a rational reason, aside from, I don't know, some of you in the comments, and Terry, but it is a penalty. It is a penalty, isn't an argument. It isn't a penalty isn't an argument. What I'm stating is I want professionals to explain why it is or it isn't, so we can all learn. Then if it happens again, there's less of a debate, isn't there? So that's all I'm asking for here. Sorry,
well, what I want to know, and sorry, I'll just say this. What I want to know, and this is something they have to ask the referees or ask Anthony Taylor. Why did he look at Joao Pedro for 3 seconds, think about it, and then blow his whistle? If it's a penalty and you saw it's a head clash, fair enough. Because there's no way VAR spoke to you in those 3 seconds and said, by the way, yeah, there's a touch, right? You looked at it, you saw him down, you're looking at him. Imagine 1, 2, 3. Okay, pen. What were you think? I just want to understand from Anthony Taylor.
I like this comment here. Sorry, guys. I like this comment here. It says, no, he hit it onto Saliba's head. So Leon, you make a point, again, that holds water. You could then say, if I play a ball past someone, if I've got a ball in my possession and I knock it past the defender and it hits his foot when he's trying to make a tackle, because Saliba was trying to make a header, and then follows through and trips me up, is that a foul because I kicked the ball at his foot? That's why I think you'll be, when I get your point you're making here, but if you then apply that logic to other challenges, and that's why I think these debates are important and why we should be asking questions of the authorities, because I get someone's point. Well, it's been headed against Saliba's head, but he's going for a header. If that's a slide tackle, does it get given as a penalty? Maybe no. But I'd love to know the distinction as to why. And I'll be honest, I don't think anybody in the comments and nobody on this panel knows the answer as to why, i.e., why I should be asking the officials. Sam, over to you. Real Madrid, Sam.
Yeah, first of all, Happy New Year, everyone. Hope everyone's had a good time. And you're shameless still, by the way, for that comment you put on to me at the beginning of the stream, Terry.
I'm not shameless. You wanted the manager and half your squad sacked. You're now top of the league. We told you would be.
Are leagues won in January, Terry?
No, not yet. I'm just asking you how you feel about it.
Well, ask me in May, and then I'll apologize if we win the Champions League with it. Nah, but look, it's a shame that Sulz is gone, because I wanted to ask him this question. Because I'm hearing this whole thing of, look, Brighton, I get it, like, not a bad team. I'm not saying that they're a bad team, but I actually didn't even know this before Lee actually told me. They've dropped 4 points to Brighton this season. 4. So
the first one is the Declan Rice red card.
Yeah, and my question is then, well, if it's phase 5, Terry, they can't be Brighton now, and now people are saying the league is done in January. So that just gives an indication that they have regressed then from these last 2 seasons then. That is giving me an indication that they might have regressed then. Because if you're saying now that the league is done, well, what kind of signal is that now sending out then? Because that doesn't sound very well.
So what do you think that means, in your opinion?
Yeah, for me, I think I think they've regressed. That one, I just don't think the firepower is nowhere near what it was before. I think if Saka, as I told Egal this as well, he even told me on the phone, he even thought the league is dead, because if Saka's gone, the firepower ain't there. I agree. But that is where I also told you on transfer deadline day that I think they didn't do enough. And now,
so you're saying they regressed. I understand. But they haven't added more firepower or good enough firepower. But what's made them regress? Because to regress is to suggest they were good enough, and now they no longer are. So what's created the regression, in your opinion?
For me, they don't play as good. I think their attacking play is much worse than what it was before. I think they create much less than what they have done before. And I think some of the players have dropped down a level than what they were doing last season as well. I think Trossard is one. I think he has regressed compared to last season. I think, what's the other guy that I was talking about? Martinelli. I think he's even decreased another level as well compared to what he was doing before. And I think these players who are keep regressing, I think also he's bought some players I don't think should have been, like Mikel Marino. I don't think that guy was the right signing for Arsenal. I didn't really understand that one. I thought they needed more of a backup for Odegaard, but listen, it is what it is. But I think these players have regressed to another level, and I think that's made them now regress overall as a team. And I think now, what is it? How many points are they behind now? Did you say 6?
6 and 5. Sorry, 5.
All right. 5. So if Liverpool win tomorrow, that's 8, and then if they win again, game in hand, that's 11. And I just think if
that game's getting cancelled tomorrow due to the weather, no?
or has that not been confirmed?
That's not good. I doubt that's going to happen, especially this time of night. No, I doubt that will happen. If that does,
it's just because the Merseyside derby got cancelled. So I'm just
because for me it's obvious. If they don't even challenge the season, so let's say they end up like 7-8 points, don't even challenge anymore for that league title, and they fumble out of the cups. For me, Terry, I don't think you can defend that manager then. I think he cannot be defended anymore. He can't.
Are you looking at regression through the scope of where they are in the league, or are you looking at it in terms of points? Because if we're at the exact same points we were last season, from a league standpoint, how is that regression? Just that
no, because no, it's not just no, but it's not just the points. It's not just the points because I just think the way you
exact same games we had up until this point last season, we have the exact same points.
I hear
you. Had more injuries as well.
I hear. No, Matt. The injuries stop.
I'm not making
injuries are part of the game. But everyone has.
I'm just putting it into perspective that he's still.
I think we stagnated. Personally, I think we stagnated. But I'm just trying to understand your point.
Yeah, but Nathan,
I think stagnation's a very good.
I just think your players may have regressed. I just think some of them have regressed compared to these.
But again, Sam, like you have to, you cannot just say we have regressed and not back it up, because if we have the same points as last season, despite having tougher fixtures this year and having 3 matches where we got red cards and drop points in all of them, and the fact that we have scored 1 more goal than we did in the first 20 games of last season. Last season, first 20 games. But first.
Sam, can I ask you
goals. This season it's 38. So how have we regret?
Sam, can I ask you a question on the? I think. Listen, you're entitled to your opinion. If they don't challenge for the league from this point, they stay 6 to 9 points behind for the rest of the season, but pick up a League Cup or pick up an FA Cup. Do you consider that progression or regression? Because there's a trophy involved.
Yeah, there's a trophy there.
So do you consider that progression, regression, stagnation? Like,
no. Progression,
if you're going to categorize it with the words you've been using, if they win a trophy, how would you? What box would you put them in?
No. If you get a trophy, then it's progression. Because again, if you get a trophy, then fair enough. But for me, how do I say that? I don't think I've told you this as well before. I think that was a mistake. I probably should have clarified this to you before. For me, if you're 5 years deep into this whole project, not that I like to use that word, but let's say nowadays is the way that it's been produced. If you're 5 years deep, I think you need to win one of the big honors, one of the big ones, either the Prem or the UCL. Exactly. Those trophies should have been won along the way.
I understand your view on that. And the only reason I ask is just because I want to understand your take on that. We should give it. If it doesn't win the Champions League, it isn't progression essentially because it's not a big one. That's fair.
Yeah,
it's fair. It's fair. One sec. It's fair you have that stance. I think what you said about Mikel Arteta, I think it's absolutely right that Arsenal fans, if they don't win any trophies and if they fall off even further from this point away from the title race, don't win a trophy and end up finishing 12, 15 points off the top, it would not be disrespectful to ask for the manager, the head coach, whatever his position is, I don't really care, to be changed. Because I do think there is a squad here that is good. We know it can do better than it's doing now.
Of course, that's my point.
Sometimes that stagnation or that regression, as it's viewed, sometimes it can be because players have got a little bit bored of the training sessions and the manager and the voice. Arne Slot himself said in an interview, ironically, before Man United played Liverpool last time, I haven't really changed anything, especially not the style of football. It's just a few adaptations and a new voice that he feels has remotivated these players. And this isn't a dig at Arteta. I've said this for about 18 months now. Arsenal fans have got to start looking more at their club. I know there's a big fight, and some Arsenal fans are desperate for Arteta to be the guy that wins them a major trophy because they can say, oh, we won the debate. The debate's over. The debate's dead because both groups have got so many predictions wrong that I don't feel there's anything worth. The win is in tatters anyway. It's a bit of a hollow victory, whether you win it because he wins the Prem or whether he doesn't win the Prem and he's sacked at the end of this season or next. It's just a hollow debate, in my personal opinion. Arsenal fans should be focusing their energy and their conversations on what is best for Arsenal from this point, not what is best for me and my ego in this debate. Because I feel that's where a lot of energy...
Yeah, but what do you think they should do?
What do you mean? Paint me the picture.
Yeah, I'm about to. If they don't win anything again, they fall off dramatically even more than what they were doing last season, not challenging for a league title there. And Liverpool just run away with it. You think he should? I think
they should look for a new manager. Then yes, I've said that. I said that at the beginning of the season. My mind doesn't change. It's not. I mean, I'm not an Arsenal fan, so my opinion, I wouldn't say it weighs less because we're all football fans, but that's how I felt. I'm not emotional about it though. What I said nearly 3 years ago now, when I said the whole Arsenal looks scary thing. Firstly, people take it out of context of my perception from where my club was. But what I stated then throughout the course of that season is that I felt Arsenal were building to a point where either it was win-win, where it was either going to be Arteta takes them over the line or somebody else steps in and gets them over the line. So from my point of view, I'm not emotionally connected, as I know many people think I am, but I'm really not. It doesn't matter to me whether Arteta stays or not. In reality, as a Man United fan, I'd like all you fuckers to regress. I'd like you all to keep making mistakes, keep the wrong managers, because it would help my team, or at the very least right now, make my team look a little better, right? So I don't want your clubs to make the right decisions from a personal standpoint. But if I remove my bias and I remove what I want as an individual and be honest, I felt for a while that Arsenal were kind of in like a win-win. You're either going to win with
I find it weird.
The next guy's going to get them over the line. But if he regresses massively from now in the league, doesn't win a trophy, the only saving grace, if I'm being honest, let's say he gets to a Champions League final and narrowly loses to a Real Madrid, but plays well in the knockouts and they look dangerous like they could win it, that could potentially save him. And I understand why, considering they've very rarely been that close. However, if they don't do well in that competition, fall off from now in the league and don't win a domestic trophy, I don't see the argument for keeping him.
The
one thing I push back on, and Robbie says this a lot, Don Robbie, who I've got a lot of time and respect for, when Robbie says, who else? What are we going to do? Bring in Sean Dyche? That for me is it's very disingenuous. There are lots of very good coaches out there, some of which have got great, some of them have got very good experience, maybe not in the Premier League per se. And I always think, listen, that's so disrespectful to your club, your Arsenal Football Club. And as much as we all like to banter you at times, you are a gigantic football club. And barring a handful of managers, Pep at City, anyone who's managing Real Madrid as an example, probably a Man United or a Spurs man. I actually think you could entice a Spurs manager away if he had the bottle to do it. But there's a handful of clubs where you couldn't take their manager because I think their clubs are too big or there's a rivalry. Outside of that, you should have the confidence to be able to take 99.9% of all managers away from their football clubs around Europe. So that's one thing I don't believe in. So, yeah, look, as I say, I think a lot of people will stick it on Arteta forever because they want to win that debate. Some will stick by him forever because they want to win that debate. I think a lot of the time, Arsenal fans in the last, say, 12 months haven't been talking, and I think fan conversations are very potent and important, haven't been talking about what's best for Arsenal, more so what will make me feel better if what I'm asking for comes off. And I think that Arteta's time at the football club should be up for discussion if he isn't winning major trophies. I absolutely believe that.
Do I find interesting?
Absolutely.
I think I brought this point up before, but a lot of people talk about Mikel Arteta's position, but then a lot of people talk about the transfer window and it not being sufficient enough to challenge or to improve Arsenal. And I think stagnation can also come about by squeezing what you can out of a group of players, but not improving on that. Right? There's been I've seen great Premier League winning sides who've gone on and not strengthened sufficiently and struggled or been able to fail to replicate their winning ways and had to go back to the right Liverpool, for instance, or even United sides previously before Arsenal sides of Chelsea who failed not to go on and win the league. And I find it kind of interesting that a lot of the conversation kind of gets skipped to putting the pressure on the owners and the boards and those responsible decision makers at the club. And
what does that say about your board? But what does it say about the board? If you've got people now saying if Saka is gone, that ends the title. What does that say about the recruitment?
But exactly, that's my point. Before we start talking about the manager, I openly came in and I talked about the summer window and how I felt that it wasn't sufficient. Right. So now for me to go out and then start, criticizing the manager and talking as if he's issue number one, when Saka's not in the squad, when Odegaard's not in the squad, we're now in a position where we're having to play three defensive midfielders. Yeah,
I agree. Because as much as
17-year-old out on the wing.
You can hate Arteta all you want. Does anyone in their heart of heart believe that he was given a big long list of attackers and he went, yeah, Sterling? Like, I don't. But do you know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily blame him for that per se. Again,
but the thing is, I don't know how much control that guy has even at Arsenal.
There's some
people are saying he's got massive control there.
Maybe.
No, but even from reports, right? We've been linked. I've said this before. We've been linked to Nico Williams. Rafinha was the number one
He's a
target.
scrub.
To get him,
Don't go
right?
anywhere near that guy, bro.
I'm just giving out names. Nico Williams was a target. Rafinha was the target. Bruno Guimaraes was a target at one stage. Isak was a target at one stage. How many of Arsenal's first team targets have they failed to?
I agree.
To get
Guys,
over the line.
I've got to jump into these super chats because there's loads of them.
I've got to shoot. Yeah, be safe.
Sam, top man. Thank
you. Big up, guys.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. First super chat here says zero threat in the transition or counter is an issue. Now, I agree. I think that a lot more is needed. A lot more speed is needed there. Terry, tell me why you believe Saliba's wasn't violent conduct red card, because I don't believe he headbutted him on purpose. That's as simple as that. It is you don't want to upset your Arsenal fans. I don't think Saliba headbutted him on purpose. Like violent conduct. Yeah, I don't believe that. There you go. No, Terry, stop trying to create confusion from a simple foul. I don't think I'm creating confusion. The fact that we had a panel of 10 people and there was almost 9 different opinions on it, plus different things in the fact that the comment section don't agree. But yeah, I'm creating confusion. Terry, I hear the referee examination is eminently passable if you think you can do better. Otherwise, the performance was guilty, not the ref. I've already criticized the performance. The first thing I spoke about on the video, my friend, and most of the panel have as well, Sean. Thank you. Maybe Arteta is our Brendan Rodgers, good enough to keep us in the run, but not good enough. And look, I've always thought that African Soldier. I've always felt that could be the situation for Arsenal. And Gonner's, there's a joke going around. Oh, Slot's going to win it in phase 1. Slot isn't in phase 1. I don't know if they use the word phase at Liverpool. Slot has taken over from Klopp, who took over from Brendan Rodgers. Their rebuild started 10 years ago, and it's just a continuation. So, and by the way, if Arteta left today because he gets a City job, and then you guys appoint Alonso doesn't start in phase 1. They say you are using phases. His might be phase 6, but you don't start again from scratch. Not the way modern day clubs are built. So that's why I just wouldn't panic that much about it personally.
You know what I don't understand with this, right, is that his first season that he challenged was in 2022, was probably his backstabbing dagger, if anything, because it was a year or two too early and whatnot. And, he didn't get signed by Arsenal to, win the league, win the Champions League. I think he got signed by Arsenal to get us back to that point so then we could potentially get another coach in that position.
Potentially he did, but then that's where you got, say your theory's right. So the viewers, I'm going to sound a bit condescending here. This is what you've got to learn to do in these scenarios. You may not agree with that point, but live in it for a moment. Just live in it and imagine it's true. That's when you look at the board. Because say you hired a manager and you went, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he came in as an interim. He was never meant to be the full-time manager. We all got gassed in that first 9 games when he got the contract and went crazy. We all learned as fans. But the professionals running our club shouldn't have got gassed by it. They should have gone, no. He's an interim manager. He isn't the Messiah. They should never have done that. So let's say your board knew he was only going to be good enough to rebuild the culture. He shouldn't be there now, theoretically, because they always knew that. So that's why you've got to look in your theory. You've got to look at your board. That also here says Doku kicked McAllister in the chest last year in the box, and this same ref did not give the pen. Well, that's also why you got. I didn't even think about that today, but that's why you got to ask a question. Why is that a penalty and that one isn't? Got to understand why as fans. I agree. Adingra had a chance in the first half. Yeah, he did. He sliced it. He really cut across that bad. He did. Liverpool fans struggling to manufacture concern at this point. W stuff like, I hope we hold off Nottingham Forest. Listen, the only Liverpool fan doing that is one. There's one Liverpool fan doing it, and that is just Sam. No other Liverpool fan is playing it down. They're the clear favourites to win the league. They absolutely are. Brandon and Egal left to throw hands. Egal actually messaged me saying that was nice. I messaged him back and I didn't kick him out. I hope he knows. I'm checking now. He knows that. Hang on.
What actually happened then?
He said he had to go. I thought he thought I kicked him out. No, I didn't. I rarely kick people off the terrace. I don't get why people rate Moreno. Too slow, too predictable, too shit. Party right back is nonsense. Rather play Martinelli there. Useless as a forward. It's a good point there about the party one's crazy at the right back. It's awful. Egal deserves this. He's a blind Arteta sexual. Based on Egal logic, Moresca shouldn't be questioned. He's brought us to challenge second in his first season as well. Listen, I didn't agree with everything Egal said. The one thing I do kind of get, I don't think Brandon does this per se. There are some people that hate Arteta to a point where when anything goes wrong, they will sit there and find a way to just blame him. I think there's some truth to that. I just don't necessarily think that's Brandon. But there we go. Egal Ange has been at Spurs 18 months and is currently crippled with injuries, but he cannot use that as an excuse. How is Arteta allowed injuries as an excuse after 5 years?
Can we apply that to Pep as well? or Klopp at Liverpool? Like injuries, yeah. I just find it so disingenuous.
Training sessions at full match intensity. That's not normal. You shouldn't be doing training sessions.
What's happened is this, right? When Liverpool lost Van Dijk and had a few other injuries and they didn't retain their title, Liverpool used it, and there was some grounds to it, and it was sort of like scoffed at by everybody. Now what's happened is since then everyone's had injuries, right? Liverpool fans started by not letting anybody else use it as an excuse, and it's just become a massive circle now. That's what's happened. By deflecting it from Arteta, nothing will change. Listen, I actually think as well, you should never look at just one person. An individual game, you might blame an individual. You know, Jackson today for Chelsea, a lot of Chelsea fans, and if he scores, we win. I get it. But over the course of a 5-year period, it can't just be one person's fault, in my opinion. Ding ding round two. So I haven't spoke to Sam yet. We're going to go to Sam. Calafiori was at centre back at Bologna, yet he has played left back here.
He's a left centre back.
Give us a name, Brandon. Give us a manager to replace him. We'll ask him that next time. Sorry, we didn't get around to that super chat, my friend. Odegaard. Yes, I thought I said his name wrong then. Odegaard has stunk for 4 games. Captain coming off the bench and pulling out of 50-50s is embarrassing. Someone take a damn shot from outside the box is what JB says here. And love to Ash. Mikel is a coward, won't trust kids. He's 100% to blame for this game and our style of play. League and cups are done. It's time to go. I have to ask you, why are the cups done when you're still in them? I have to ask you that. I have to ask that question because, I mean, I assume that means you think you're going to be knocked out by Man United and Newcastle. Now, listen, I will say this now. I don't think we'll win. But if Man United knock you out next week at home, there will be a lot of people turn on Arteta. That's the game you guys cannot afford to lose. You're going to lose one of the cup games in this next week. You've got to lose to Newcastle. You can't lose the Man United one. You can't. Partey's presence was missing in midfield. Timber should haven't his head in shame. His consistent time wasting on throw-ins cost us.
But that's not on the player. That is literally on the manager because he's telling.
It's like a
players
tactic,
to do
a tactic and a strategy. I'll get you there. If we win the league or the Champions League under this ownership, I will donate my liver for free. Never because we will never going to appoint the right people to check in charge, and they always looking for top 4. Sam, what is it you're here to say, mate? Obviously, as a Liverpool fan, in case the viewers don't know, what are you here to say, brother?
We are the champion. I'm joking. Anyways, so I think everybody spoke about most things, but I did want to bring up this one point, and I think Arsenal's mentality is not talked about a lot. The mentality in the club, with the players, with the manager, and we've got now a good kind of like a good amount of data in the last 4 years to say that, do you know what, they might need to move on to the next manager to get them over the line. I'm talking about, as Ash, I think it was Ash or Egal said it before, they did bottle top 4 years ago. Next season, went onto a title race or a title run where nobody expected it, but yet, how many games to go, they fell off. They as they said, they bottled it. The next season, Liverpool lost against Crystal Palace. They played straight after. They knew what they needed to do, lost that game, and let the league go to Man City. And then this season, listen, Liverpool didn't play the game against Everton, and I'm just going to say this: Everton is the one that called it off, not Liverpool. So it was Everton, but they had a chance to close that gap with Liverpool not playing. They went and drew the game. Liverpool dropped points again, and they went and drew again. So and then you got this game where you have a chance to go 3 points close to Liverpool. Actually put the pressure on Liverpool. I know we still have 2 games in hand, but as the old saying goes, points on the board is better than having no points. So actually putting the pressure on, and yet you drop points again. And you can have a different examples of why these things are happening, injuries, this, that, and the other. But I do think that Arsenal's mentality in these moments is a big problem. And it's happened not once, not twice. It's happened multiple times. So that's why I personally think, don't sack him now, but by the end of the season, you need to have serious conversations in your fan base about whether he is the guy to take you over the line, because of the fact that on these critical moments, he can't seem, or the players, whatnot, do not have the mentality to go over the line. And that's all I wanted to say.
Listen, I think the mentality is such an important part of football. I think it's absolutely fair to call that out. And I think a lot of Arsenal fans have come on the terrace over the years and said that. Like, you know, I think Ash said it earlier on in the stream. He goes, he just has his gut feeling that Liverpool could drop some points tomorrow. And that's going to be very, very difficult for Man United to do. But I think Arsenal fans, they I suppose in their hearts, they don't want Liverpool winning because they want the door to be opened up again. But there'd also be a sting. You know, if Man United pulled off a mad 1-0 win, and I'm not suggesting they will, that will hurt Arsenal tomorrow because they could have closed that gap. So I get where you're coming from. This is from Nico says, Terry, we have no other right back to play in that place of Timber at the moment. Yeah, I would have put Calafiori in that position. I'd have put a fullback there who was a bit more mobile to help and kept Thomas Partey in the middle. I understand you have no other right back, and I do understand that. But that's what I would have looked to have done if I was picking the team. Gordon got his nose broke by Kulusevski in the box by a clash of heads, but it was shoulder, actually. And I'm sure David would have called a foul and a penalty for that one. Yeah, look, I thought that was a foul earlier. It looked a foul. I'd love to get the explanation. Look, you've got to remember when it comes to these fouls, you know, I'm already getting stick online, and I get it. Terry's trying to play down Arsenal's performance. That's coming from people that have ignored what I've said about Arsenal's performance. There are some people that don't want Arsenal to have an excuse, so they'll say, you just forget talking about the penalty. There'll be others that will say it's a clear penalty. What are we even debating? I think that in itself, if you just listen to those 3 opinions, that's why we're debating, right? It's why we're all here. But look, whether you think it's a penalty or not, I'll state what I did at the beginning of this video an hour and 41 minutes ago. Arsenal fans shouldn't. I think you can focus and put energy on this. You should also be looking at the performances, the substitutions, the way you're playing. These things are very, very crucial to focus on as well. I don't want to hear nonsense about a centre forward. We didn't create enough chances, and no striker was going to solve anything if not enough chances are created.
I can't remember who said it. I think it was Ash or somebody else. They said, I believe Arteta came, or it was Deo. It was Deo that said it. He believed Arteta came in to just have a 1-0 and just get out of there, which was very evident to see.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit that way when you look at it now. Why didn't he play Rice at right back? Bro can't progress the ball well. We need Nico Williams, Kudus, and Shavaskelia. Otherwise, I am worried about our coach. Well, you're not getting all 3 of them. Not in January. You might get 1, maybe. The statement I made that I'm going to the lottery is not wrong. I just don't have the balls to go and do it. I'm right. Liverpool is not the team to worry. You guys, Liverpool got nothing to worry about. Genuine. If Liverpool lose a league from this point, I haven't said this all year, but they will have to hang their heads in shame because there's no one that's chasing them that's consistent in terms of results or amazing this season. It's almost becoming a one-horse race. Everyone's falling off. Every other jockey's falling off the horse. Remember when Marcos Alonso scored against Real Madrid and his hand helped him control the ball? That got disallowed in the Champions League. Arsenal fan.
I always say the Champions League is different to the Premier League because the Champions League is a lot harsher with their rules.
You got European referees though.
Yeah.
In the Premier League, you got English referees.
I also think No, I hear you, and the rules are a little bit different. However, it is about consistency, and the goal that Newcastle got today. I expect every player that accidentally handballs it now in the build up to a goal to have the team to have their goal stand. I expect any defender now. So next time Arsenal take a corner and Saliba gets his head on the ball, and then the defender smashes into him afterwards, or their heads clash, I expect a penalty to Arsenal now. And what I also expect is for everyone who says it's a penalty to call foul if it doesn't happen. But that's the problem with this decision. I think we're going to see we're going to see many of them now, and nothing's going to happen. Similarly to Declan Rice kicking the ball away. I understood why it was given. That's the protocol. They told all the clubs. But how many times since then have we seen it without a yellow card? That, for me, is where the problem kicks in. But again, I just wish it didn't happen to Arsenal, because then maybe people would be a bit more open to listening about it. Look, I want to thank everyone who's tuned in. Legends, as always, every single one of you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to all of our super chatters. You're so generous and amazing. We're back tomorrow with Fan Channel Review, which I assume now is going to be amazing. I've seen a few little clips you guys have DM'd me, and a few of you have screenshot videos. Send them in if you want them to feature on the show. Plus, of course, match reaction to the big one. Man United going to Anfield. I'm shitting my pants, I tell ya. Until next time, my people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.